Hello, Internet. It is I, the Roshi. She's my beloved. There was some venom in that last bit of delivery there. I don't hear anyone talking about Jean. Jean looks awesome. Dane and his bias, of course. This next one is Aloy. I know she's not a character from Genshin. She's from whatever, Horizon Zero Dawn, the collab thing. She has no reason to be in this world as far as I know. It's a gimmick. I'm gonna listen to it anyway. Maybe there'll be something interesting that Dane says regardless. So let's hear him out.
If memory serves me right, the last time an Outlander visited Tibet was centuries ago. Imagine my surprise when I discovered yet another guest during my most recent travels. A machine hunter, an outcast of the Nora tribe. Oh my, I cannot wait to learn more about her and her abilities. Let's not dilly-dally and begin our research.
Aloy here. I don't know this world, but my arrows are sharp and my bow's ready.
Based on my observations, Aloy is highly proficient with a bow and arrow. She can limit her prey's mobility with the power of cryo, aiding companions in setting up ambushes. Rejected by her tribe since birth, Aloy gained her hunting prowess under the watchful eye of an experienced hunter. Like any successful adventurer, hunters never rush into danger. One must tactfully hide and wait to strike. When Aloy is in the party, animals that produce foul, raw meat, or chilled meat will not be startled when approached. Aloy's normal attack deals physical damage and can combo up to 4 consecutive shots. For a more precise aimed shot with increased damage, hold the attack button. Aiming will also accumulate frost on the arrowhead, which will deal cryo damage once fully charged. Tap Aloy's elemental skill to throw a freeze bomb in the targeted direction that explodes on impact, dealing cryo damage. When it detonates, the bomb will split into chillwater bomblets that explode on contact with opponents or after a short delay, dealing cryo damage. Such an ingenious blasting design. When a freeze bomb or chillwater bomblet hits an opponent, the opponent's attack is reduced, and Aloy receives a coil stack, which increases her normal attack damage. When she has 4 stacks, the coil effect is removed, and Aloy gains Rushing Ice for a set time period, which additionally increases her normal attack damage and converts her normal attack damage into cryo damage. While under the effect of Rushing Ice, Aloy cannot receive new coil stacks. Coil effects will be cleared once Aloy leaves the field for a set time. After unlocking the talent Combat Override, for a certain duration after gaining the coil effect, Aloy increases the attack of all party members. This effect cannot stack.
The hunt is on!
Aloy throws a power cell filled with cryo in the targeted direction, then detonates it with an arrow, dealing AoE cryo damage. An explosive infused with elemental energy. Remarkable. If utilized in the right time and place, its effectiveness will be indisputable. A good hunter can deliver a decisive blow or hold their own during a long battle. After unlocking the talent Strong Strike, when Aloy is in the Rushing Ice state conferred by Frozen Wilds, her cryo damage bonus gradually increases. Aloy is a skilled hunter who moves with great precision, like a cat in pursuit of its prey. It'll be difficult to escape her attacks once she locks onto her target. Any foe can be conquered with the joint forces of her and her companions. In combat, Aloy often opens up with her freeze bomb and accumulates coil stacks while her teammates launch their attacks. Once an opponent is hit by a freeze bomb or chillwater bomblet, the party's attack will be increased thanks to the Combat Override talent. When Aloy reaches 4 coil stacks, she enters the Rushing Ice state. This makes her arrows even more lethal as they'll pierce enemies with biting frost. Combine this with the talent Strong Strike to constantly increase Aloy's cryo damage during Rushing Ice. When her energy is full, Aloy unleashes her elemental burst that wipes out opponents in the target area. I hope you found my research as informative as I did. As a sorceress, I love making new discoveries, examining all kinds of otherworldly things, and using that knowledge to create something new. Maybe Aloy and I are more alike than it may seem. Though she plays so many roles in her homeworld, Aloy begins her journey into Vat with a clean slate. She'll get to know new places, meet new companions, and reconsider what her homeland means to her. With her survival skills, adventuring into Vat should be a breeze. If only she'd let me tinker with her bombs a little.
Okay. So, that was not what I was expecting. Once again, assuming that Dane was going to show up. But we had another person introduce this collab character. Which kind of makes sense that it would be that way, now that I think about it. Klei's mother? This is the first time I'm hearing Klei's mother's voice, I think. I don't think I've heard her before this. I knew that she was going to be talking about some of the characters in these, and I think this is the first one on the list that I've seen so far anyway. As far as Aloy goes, she seems interesting enough, right? That's cool. So if you enjoy playing with her in your party, then sure, why not, right? I feel like there probably could be other characters that do more. Dare I say, are just better. But she seems quick and she's unique, and I'm sure that maybe she's special now in a way because, you know, not everyone has her at this point in time. There seems to be more depth than I thought there was going to be, which is cool, at least with her moves. However, I'm still not completely sold because, how do you really tie Aloy into the story of Genshin? I don't think you do. However, I will admit this was a very, very interesting way of going about it. Because you have Klei's mother, and she's probably dimension hopping, and, you know, and then you have this character coming into the world of Genshin, and went in a much different direction than I expected.
The Tengu of Inazuma dwell in the mountain forests, rarely appearing in human society. To live among humans as Kujo Sara does, not to mention serve as their army general, is almost unheard of. One wonders if, in her eyes, the profound seclusion of the densely wooded mountains and the eternity pined for by the Raiden Shogun bear any similarity to each other.
I will lead us to victory.
As general of the Tenryo Commission, Kujo Sara is a fearless warrior and a formidable leader. As one of Tengu blood, she can summon the mighty power of Tengu Jurai to rouse her troops, as she leads them into the heat of battle. The Tengu are known for their agility, and Kujo Sara knows Inazuma exceptionally well, as her role requires her to move around frequently and rapidly. When Kujo Sara is dispatched on an expedition in Inazuma, she completes the task in a reduced time. Kujo Sara's normal attack can combo up to 5 consecutive shots, dealing physical damage. Holding the attack button executes a more precise shot that deals increased damage. While aiming, crackling lightning accumulates on the arrowhead. An arrow fully charged with the storm's might will deal electro damage to enemies on impact. When Kujo Sara casts her elemental skill, she retreats rapidly with the speed of a Tengu, then summons the protection of the Crow Feather in the form of Crow Feather Cover. When Kujo Sara fires a fully charged aimed shot, Crow Feather Cover is consumed, and a Crow Feather is left where the arrow strikes. After a short duration, the Crow Feather triggers Tengu Jurai Ambush, which deals electro damage to enemies in its AoE, and grants the active character within its AoE an attack bonus, based on Kujo Sara's base attack. skilled use of this technique allows Kujo Sara to rapidly evade enemy attacks, and also set the stage for a robust counterattack from an advantageous position. After unlocking the talent Immovable Will, after gaining Crow Feather cover by casting her elemental skill, Kujo Sara's aimed shots reach full charge more quickly. Kujo Sara is an intelligent and capable general. Troop morale is all the stronger just for knowing she is in command. After unlocking the talent Decorum, when Tengu Jurai ambush hits an enemy, all party members restore some energy, the amount of which is based on Kujo Sara's energy recharge. This effect can be triggered once per set time period.
Glory to the Shogun!
Kujo Sara casts down Tengu Jurai Titanbreaker, dealing AoE electro damage. Afterwards, Tengu Jurai Titanbreaker spreads out into 4 consecutive bouts of Tengu Jurai Storm Cluster, dealing AoE electro damage. Both Titanbreaker and Storm Cluster can provide the active character within their AoE with the same attack bonus as given by Tengu Jurai Ambush. The attack bonus provided by various kinds of Tengu Jurai cannot be stacked. The effect and duration is determined by the last Tengu Jurai to take effect. Kujo Sara is a seasoned war veteran, and a leader greatly admired by her subordinates. She uses the secret techniques of the Tengu to bolster her forces, and empower them to win victory after victory. In battle, Kujo Sara must make deft use of her elemental skill to adjust her strategic position, and use charged shots to trigger Tengu Jurai Ambush, dealing damage to the enemy while providing attack bonuses to teammates, and restoring energy for the whole party. When energy is full, Kujo Sara unleashes her elemental burst to assault the enemy, and once again provide a Tengu Jurai attack bonus, paving the way for her forces to swoop in and crush the enemy's defenses. As a Tengu raised by humans, Kujo Sara heeds the call of humanity, forsaking her own kind, to fight for the mortal world in battle. Perhaps those who achieve such outstanding feats are too satisfied with their own brilliance to realize that their god has raised them in a prison. Sometimes I cannot decide whether the greater tragedy is to have lost all one's own ambition, or to have adopted the wishes of a god as one's own.
Well, I know, if it isn't obvious enough, that Kujo Sara here is a huge supporter of Raiden. And Dane does not agree with that mentality. That last line he spoke was, I mean, it gets you thinking, you know, what's more sad, to lose all ambition, or that you adopt the same wishes as your god? Okay, but Kujo Sara here is, once again, different than what I thought she was going to be. And I learned something. I was wondering what the black crow wings were all about, and apparently she's a Tengu, or part Tengu. I honestly know that Tengu is from Japanese folklore, but it's cool because she's a general and how she has to be very strategic, and her playstyle does mimic that, which is very nice. For being a bow user, it seems like you're supposed to kind of get into the thick of it with her and just plant things and escape and attack and advance and swap into another character. I can see the appeal for someone who might be interested in that kind of play style. Kujo Sara, pretty badass.
In the western regions of Inazuma lies Watatsumi Island, home to a culture and natural landscape unique in the entire archipelago. According to legend, Orobaxi was Watatsumi Island's guardian deity. Even after being slain, this god's will to protect the island flowed on in the Sangonomiya clan. The current heir to this bloodline is known as the Divine Priestess, Sangonomiya Kokomi.
All is accounted for. Let's move out.
Her role is to serve as the island's leader, as well as commander of its armed forces. Behind her delicate appearance lies the mind of a brilliant tactician. She is adept in harnessing the power of Hydro to aid her forces in battle. As their commander, she bravely leads her troops into the fray, sweeping away enemies like sand in the tide. Kokomi spent her childhood on Watatsumi Island. Playing among darting fish and rolling waves, she feels at home in the water. When Sanganomiya Kokomi is in your party, she reduces swimming stamina consumption for your own party members, making exploration faster. Kokomi's normal attack performs up to 3 consecutive strikes that take the form of swimming fish, dealing hydro damage. Holding the attack button consumes a set amount of stamina and deals AoE hydro damage after a short casting time. Tap Kokomi's elemental skill to summon a Bakekurage created from water that can heal her allies. This ability applies the wet status to Kokomi. The Bakekurage periodically deals hydro damage to surrounding enemies, while also healing nearby active characters. The healing amount scales with Kokomi's max HP. Kokomi summons the might of Watatsumi, dealing hydro damage to surrounding enemies, and dons her watery ceremonial garment. While enrobed in the ceremonial garment, Kokomi's normal attack, charged attack, and Bakekurage damage are increased. And she regenerates HP for all nearby party members when her normal and charged attacks hit opponents. Kokomi's damage increase and the healing amount both scale with her max HP. Additionally, Kokomi's ceremonial garment increases her resistance to interruption and allows her to walk on the water's surface.
Whoa.
After unlocking the talent Tamanoya's Casket, casting Kokomi's Elemental Burst refreshes the duration of her Bakekurage if already on the battlefield. In the pure glow of her water-woven garment, Kokomi draws power from the traditional song of the Divine Priestess. After unlocking the talent Song of Pearls, when enrobed by the ceremonial garment, Kokomi's max HP base damage dealt by her normal and charged attacks is further increased, by an amount that scales with her own healing bonus. Kokomi plans meticulously for every battle she faces. Her thorough attention to detail ensures that her forces will emerge victorious. Sanganomiya Kokomi sacrifices Crick to increase her healing bonus. Matched with her talent Song of Pearls, she offers stability in any conflict. In the chaos of battle, victory and defeat can hinge on a single moment. Versed in the art of war, Kokomi knows to stay calm and composed as she develops her winning strategy. The survival of her forces being a key part of her ability to seize the moment of victory. In battle, Kokomi uses the Bakekurage summoned by her elemental skill to recover HP for her teammates, and set up perfect conditions for hydro-elemental reactions, assisting her allies on the offensive. When needed, she personally joins the fray to unleash her elemental burst, strengthening her abilities with the ceremonial garment. Then, with the aid of her teammates and her Bakekurage, she attacks like a tidal wave, overwhelming the enemy and securing victory. Long ago, a god defeated the enemies from the deep and raised the people of Watatsumi from the desolate seabed. Later, another god vanquished their beloved Watatsumi Omikami, leaving the deathly Tataragami in its wake. If you were to liken human history to a great battle, the actions of gods would seem as difficult to predict as the weather, a capricious variable. Faced with such turbulent storms, who knows how long this girl who carries a divine will can protect the people of this island?
Okay, Kokomi. I've said this before in something else, but Kokomi has some of the best animations with her character and how she moves and how she's fighting. when she's casting her spells and how she's like twirling around and just constantly looking like she is actually swimming just in the air. I love that so much. It looks amazing. I also do really like here how it talks about how she is a strategist, that she is not just some princess, that she actually knows war and how to fight, and her strategy is about, you know, keeping her people alive essentially, and that ties into her own abilities being based around having a good max HP, which triggers all her other stuff to do well, just keeping everyone alive. Really cool. And once again with Dain, you know, making little comments about gods and this and that, and not really being a fan of that whole thing. And you know, it's interesting how they're referring to a god that is essentially dead, that's no longer around, but how I guess they still kind of keep those values or that praise to that god, and that there's some ancient ancestry connected to that through Kokomi. And Dain over here just kind of like, yeah, but how long is that going to work? Yeah, once again, Dain's bias shows. I mean, he is asking the questions, but feels a little snarky, just a little bit. I can sense the snark. It's Thoma time.
Strict regulations govern everything in Inazuma. Outlanders looking for a home away from home face many obstacles here. So how did a Mondstadter called Thoma earn a reputation as a local fixer and secure a job with the Yashiro Commission? Is this a testament to the Kamisato clan's magnanimity, or to Thoma's exceptional abilities?
Where we headed this time?
Thoma is well connected and values his companions both in everyday life and in combat. He fights to defend the ones he holds dear. When crisis comes, Thoma's urge to defend kicks in as he dons his armor and grabs his polearm to help his friends fend off their foes with scorching flames. He is someone that his team can always rely on. Thoma takes to new life skills like a fish to water. After arriving in Inazuma, he quickly learned how to partake of the bountiful blessings found in the nation's waters. After Thoma becomes your travel companion, when travelers go fishing in Inazuma, there is a certain chance to receive double the catch with Thoma's help.
I didn't know you could fish, but I'm not surprised.
Thoma's normal attack can combo up to 4 strikes, dealing physical damage. Holding the attack button, Thoma consumes a certain amount of stamina to perform a charged attack, lunging forward and dealing physical damage to enemies in his path. Tap Thoma's elemental skill, and he vaults forward with his polearm to deliver a fling-filled flying kick, dealing AoE pyro damage, while also summoning a defensive blazing barrier. At the moment of casting, this skill applies pyro to Thoma. The blazing barrier absorbs damage and is especially effective against pyro damage. The damage absorption scales off of Thoma's max HP. Also, when a new blazing barrier is obtained, the existing barrier's damage absorption will stack, and the duration is refreshed. The blazing barrier's damage absorption cannot exceed a certain percentage of Thoma's max HP.
I got you covered!
When Thoma unleashes his elemental burst, he spins his polearm, slicing at his foes with roaring flames, dealing AoE pyro damage, and producing a scorching Oyoroi. While scorching Oyoroi is in effect, the active character's normal attacks will trigger fiery collapses, dealing AoE pyro damage, and summoning a blazing barrier. Except for the amount of damage they can absorb, the blazing barriers created in this way are identical to those created by Thoma's elemental skill. After unlocking the talent Flaming Assault, damage dealt by Crimson Oyoroi's fiery collapse is increased by an amount that scales with Thoma's max HP. Thoma's robust defense will not be torn down easily. It gets all the more resilient as the battle heats up. After unlocking the talent Imbricated Armor, when a blazing barrier is obtained or refreshed, the active character's shield strength is increased. Thoma is a dependable companion. He ardently believes in defending others. Even in the fiercest of battles, you can trust him to have your back. During battle, Thoma uses Blazing Barrier to protect other party members, allowing them to safely go on the offensive. When he casts his elemental burst, the Scorching Oyoroi provides both attack and defense. Party members under Scorching Oyoroi's protection benefit from increased odds of survival and can also trigger fiery collapses with their normal attacks. The pyro damage support that Thoma provides in this way further enhances the party's attack capabilities. As an outsider in Inazuma, Thoma is often viewed as someone who doesn't belong. To this day, many believe the slander behind his back. But through his own hard work and the Kamisato clan's tolerant attitude, Thoma has carved out a space for himself here, despite the somewhat hostile environment. Occasionally a thought crosses my mind. If one who has turned their back on the gods ever chose to follow them once more, would any such favorable treatment be extended to them? Regrettably, no opportunity of this nature exists, nor would I have the desire to take it. Over centuries of futility, I have at least learned one thing. So long as you have determination, you can always keep going. A defender's will is a precious thing, and hatred can serve to nourish it.
Okay. Thoma. I can relate to Thoma a little bit. You know, came from a different land, moved to Inazuma, and started a bit of a life there. But there will always be some who welcome him and other complications with people who consider him an outsider. This was very much the case when I did live in Japan for about 5 years or so. Met some lovely people, some awesome people. At the same time, that wasn't always the case. I am technically an outsider, so there would be some things that weren't great to deal with, or some things made harder than normal, just because I wasn't from that country. This video is not about those experiences, but maybe one of these days I'll do something and, you know, I'll answer whatever questions you guys have, if any. But yeah, very interesting. Thoma here, a pyro user, but he is more defense than anything, it seems. And that carries over to the allies, which is very cool. He seems unique in that way. You don't normally see a pyro user be labeled as a defender kind of character, or at least that's not what you think when you think of fire, at least for me anyway. You know, having good defense, I think of Geo, right? When I'm thinking of like debuffing enemies, I'm thinking of cryo, I'm thinking of electro, stuff like that. Fire, I'm thinking of like high big damage numbers or ongoing damage, right? That's just what pops into my head. So how they are making him a defender here seems very in character, but I don't know, it makes me wonder, right? And then of course I'm going to talk about Dainsleif. We're on the subject of, you know, can people be accepting and how some are, but there's always that kind of trouble, you know, that whole thing that we already talked about. But then he brings gods into the mix and says, you know, there's quite a few people who have turned their backs on gods. Do you think they'd be accepted again if they just changed their mind and decided to worship them, or would they essentially be forever cast out in the god's eyes? Interesting. Probably depends on the god and what that person has done that goes against them. So here we have Dain kind of bringing up that subject. In a way, it sounds like he's talking about himself, but then makes it very clear. He's like, oh, but not that I would be curious. I'm fine with what I'm doing. I don't care about that. Yeah, Dain, really? You brought it up, though. You brought it up, Dain. I don't know. I feel like, once again, that's just him, you know, nudging, like, yeah, they're not that forgiving. You know, who knows? Probably not. If they're all great, you think they'd be forgiving? I don't know. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, be careful who you trust. It feels like Dane's kind of doing one of those things. And just for the record, if I haven't made this clear, because I don't think I have, I'm just observing and just taking in what this sounds like to me. This may not be what Dainsleif is actually meaning by saying any of this stuff, but from what I've been able to guess so far, what I've been able to speculate, it seems that, you know, Dainsleif does not have very good feelings about the gods. This dude is against them. And does he have every right to be against them? Maybe. I don't know about all the things that they've done in the past. I don't quite know about the things you run into with them doing in this. For example, Raiden seems like an antagonist for Inazuma. That's just the feeling I've gotten. So, you know, I can understand why Dane would be a little upset here. Regardless, another cool video.
In recent years, the efforts of one young Crimson Oni have earned the loud and proud Arataki gang a certain measure of fame in Inazuma City's Hanamizaka district. Or perhaps that should be infamy. Either way, when it comes to their founder and leader, Arataki Itto, everyone has to agree he's one of a kind.
Arataki numero uno Itto here in the flesh.
If you claim you've never heard of the Arataki gang, don't be surprised if Itto takes it as an intentional provocation. In protest, he'll lift his hefty claymore and show off a few of his signature charged attacks, just so everyone knows who's the baddest Oni in town. Arataki Itto brags that with his Oni strength, even the sturdiest of trees can be felled. With Arataki Itto in the party, when your party members attack trees to obtain wood resources, they have a chance to get an additional log of wood.
Ah, okay.
Arataki Itto's normal attack can combo up to 4 strikes. When his second and fourth strikes hit enemies, Itto will gain 1 or 2 stacks of superlative super strength, respectively, up to a max of 5 stacks. For a short time after sprinting or using his elemental skill, Itto can continue his normal attack chain where it left off. When performing a charged attack, if Itto has any superlative super strength stacks, he will unleash Arataki Kesagiri slashes without consuming stamina. Each slash consumes 1 stack of superlative super strength. When the last stack is consumed, Itto delivers a powerful final slash. If no superlative super strength is available, Itto's charged attack consumes stamina to perform a single Saichi Monji slash. After unlocking the talent Arataki Ichiban, when Arataki Itto uses Arataki Kesagiri, he slashes with increased attack speed, and his resistance to interruption is also increased. These effects will be cleared once he stops performing consecutive slashes. Tap Itto's elemental skill, and he hurls Ushi, the young Akaushi bull and auxiliary member of the Arataki gang, dealing geo damage to enemies. When Ushi hits enemies, Arataki Itto gains a stack of superlative super strength. Holding the elemental skill button allows Itto to adjust Ushi's throwing angle. Ushi inherits HP based on a percentage of Arataki Itto's max HP, and continuously taunts surrounding enemies. When Ushi takes damage, Arataki Itto gains a stack of superlative super strength. Ushi will flee when its HP reaches 0 or its duration ends, and Arataki Itto gains a stack of superlative super strength as it leaves. Ushi is considered a geo-construct, and Arataki Itto can only deploy 1 Ushi on the field at any one time.
Oni coming through!
When Itto unleashes his elemental burst, he lets out his inner raging Oni King for a time, and wields his Oni King's Kanabo in battle. For the burst's duration, Itto's elemental and physical resistance are decreased, but his normal, charged, and plunging attacks are converted to geo damage that cannot be overridden. Also, Itto's normal attack speed is increased, and his attack is increased, based on his defense. During the Raging Oni King state, when the first or third strikes of his attack hits an enemy, Itto gains a stack of superlative super strength. With adept use of this effect, Itto can overwhelm the enemy with more Arataki Kesagiri slashes, and vaunt the might of the Arataki gang. Itto's Crimson Oni bloodline is not only a point of pride, it's his source of strength in battle. After unlocking the talent Bloodline of the Crimson Oni, Arataki Kesagiri damage is increased by an amount that scales with Itto's defense. Arataki Itto's life is one where a new challenger could appear at any moment. But as a self-professed tough guy, he won't go down without a fight. No matter who the opponent, he's always itching to show off his awesome skills and attain victory with style. During battle, Arataki Itto uses his normal attacks and elemental skill to accumulate stacks of superlative super strength, then batters the enemy with the Arataki Kesagiri charged attack. When his energy is full, Arataki Itto unleashes his elemental burst to enter the Raging Oni King state, greatly enhancing his abilities. In this state, Itto can quickly stack up that superlative super strength and use Arataki Kesagiri slashes to crush those who dare challenge him. Compared to his peers, Arataki Itto has lived a colorful life and is familiar with the inside of a prison cell, fully qualifying him as the rightful leader of the Arataki gang. Though some may contest his way of handling things, the members of this young Crimson Oni's gang choose to follow him, despite the diet of grilled lavender melon. Well, it's one way of living. And ultimately, surviving on sporadic work and next to no mora is still an easier task than trying to deny your destiny.
Okay. Like the way he moves and his combat, everything just seems to build and build and build, and he gets stronger and stronger, and that scales with his defense, so you want him to have a lot of defense too. And I couldn't tell at the end here if Dainsleif was jabbing at us or if he was taking a jab at himself, because although he was saying that Arataki Itto, he lives this very simple life next to no mora, but at least it isn't trying to, deny one's destiny. I mean, that makes me think back to that Teyvat prelude video that I reacted to that essentially talks about all the regions leading up to Celestia, as if he knows everything that's going to happen already, and he was just speaking very vaguely about it all. But I feel like that is our destiny with how it was worded, if I remember correctly. Although he was telling us not to. So maybe he's just talking about himself. Maybe Dainsleif feels like there was something else he was supposed to do, and because he doesn't agree with it, he's going against it. So he could be talking about himself here, and how he himself has made his life harder than Arataki Itto's, for example, because he's denying his own destiny. It's one or the other. It's either himself or us. But because he sounded a little more lighthearted, like there was a little bit of almost like a chuckle in his voice, I think he was talking about himself. Because if he was talking about us, I feel like he would have sounded a little more grim or gloomy, because it would have been more of a threat in a way. But meanwhile, I think it's actually him, and he's going against the grain, and he's talking about I did it to myself, and gonna keep doing it because that's just how I roll. I don't know, it's interesting if that is the case, because he's talking about Arataki Itto here, kind of just being a musclehead and stubborn and doing his thing, and meanwhile Dainsleif is kind of stuck in his own ways as well. He's not that different. He might speak more eloquently, perhaps, but stubborn is stubborn, and that's what that is. This next video is Gorou, and I hope it's made to be a little interesting. Unfortunately, unlike his other appearances and things. That's all I got. So let's get into it.
In the vast and mysterious world of Teyvat, there are as many ways of life as there are people. Some heed the call of duty, others the call of freedom. Some follow their beliefs, others their talents. A few trust their instincts and rise to shoulder great responsibility, a prime example being General Gorou of Watatsumi Island. Since you never know what the enemy might throw at you, the key to surviving the chaos of battle is being able to adapt in the moment.
Keep your weapon at the ready. You never know what's around the corner.
Gorou has endured countless battles in his time, and this experience has taught him one important lesson. However strong you may be, war is never a one-man job. As a commander, Gorou is constantly looking out for his troops, offering his protection and support, right alongside them on the front line. Gorou has always loved the great outdoors. His keen sense of smell makes him an expert at tracking down resources. When Gorou is in your party, the location of resources unique to Inazuma will appear on your minimap, making it easier to gather supplies. Gorou's normal attack can combo up to 4 consecutive shots, dealing physical damage. With a charged attack, Gorou executes a more precise aimed shot that deals increased damage. While aiming, stone crystals accumulate on the arrowhead. A fully charged arrow will deal geo damage. Tap Gorou's elemental skill to employ Inuzaka all-round defense, dealing AoE geo damage and erecting a general's war banner. Hold the skill to adjust the banner's position. The general's war banner provides buffs to active party members within its AoE. And the more geo characters in the party, the stronger the buffs. If the party contains 1 geo character, the buff is Standing Firm, which increases the active character's defense. If there are 2 geo party members, the buff is Impregnable, increasing both defense and resistance to interruption. And if there are 3 geo party members, the buff is Crunch, which increases defense and resistance to interruption, while also providing a geo damage bonus. Gorou can only deploy a single general's war banner at any given time. Also, characters can only benefit from 1 general's war banner at a time. Any active buffs will be cleared shortly after the character leaves the banner's AoE.
Everyone on me!
Gorou displays his general's valor, dealing AoE geo damage and creating the General's Glory field to embolden his comrades. General's Glory provides the same buffs as the General's War Banner created by Gorou's elemental skill. Various buffs are provided to the active character in the skill's AoE, based on the number of geo characters in the party. But this field moves with the active character. At regular intervals, a crystal collapse occurs, dealing AoE geo damage to 1 enemy within the field, and pulling an elemental shard from the crystallize reaction to the active character's location. When Gorou uses his elemental burst, if there is a General's War Banner on the field, it will be destroyed. Also, while General's Glory is in effect, using Gorou's elemental skill will not create a General's War Banner. After unlocking the talent Heedless of the Wind and Weather, all nearby party members receive a temporary defense boost after Gorou uses Juga, Forward unto Victory. For the gifted to find their true calling, someone must first recognize their talent. Gorou knows this well. He is eternally grateful and staunchly committed to Watatsumi Island's defense. After unlocking the talent A Favor Repaid, Gorou's elemental skill damage, burst damage, and crystal collapse damage are all increased by an amount based on his defense. Gorou's unique skill set provides excellent support to Geo Party members. Deploying the General's War Banner to establish an optimal formation before launching the offensive is the core of Gorou's prowess as a general. When he joins forces with other Geo comrades, his General's War Banner provides a diverse array of buffs, aiding the party both in offense and in defense. When his energy is full, unleash Gorou's Elemental Burst to establish the General's Glory Field, creating the perfect moment to attack and inspiring the whole party to press forward unto victory. Whether they seek it or not, those of exceptional ability and character tend to gain the trust of the masses. For Gorou, this trust serves both as a confirmation of his abilities and motivation to hone them continuously. But the cost of being someone that everyone relies on is the burden of responsibility that it brings. Everything from helping the troops with their daily struggles to keeping Watatsumi Island safe and secure ultimately falls on Gorou's shoulders. Time and fate treat such notions with contempt, which can make the burden unbearably heavy. If one day the world is turned upside down, will his instincts and determination alone provide him with enough strength to keep carrying the load he bears?
Okay. This video, by far, I think has the most information about him, period. And yes, the majority of it was his mechanics and how they work, but even explaining those mechanics and how they work does reinforce what I already kind of knew about him, which is that he is essential for any Geo party that you want to be running in this game, essentially. So play-wise, he seems very important with that, and his abilities do work with his whole theme that's part of his character with, like, you know, keeping up the, I don't even want to say the word because he says it so goddamn much. He didn't say it in this one, but momentum, right? He's talking about keeping up the momentum and all that stuff and everything else that he's been in. But it does make sense now that they actually explain it here. I do like how in these miscellanies that they link the character's personality to their passive ability, like something that they are skilled in or that they do, and how that ties into something that they can do in the game on the world map, whether it's helping their stamina with something or being able to craft materials the correct way or the best way possible so you get resources back. And here it's very much along the lines of tracking resources, which makes sense. He's a ranger, he's a survivalist, he's a dog, he'd be able to track things. So that's pretty cool. I'll give him that. I also like that little cutscene that we saw in the very beginning of him taking some people out. Very nice to actually see him and how the game will portray him in a cutscene, because we've seen his combat stuff before normally, like the gameplay stuff, so that was nothing really new. It was just explained this time, which was nice. And then at the end here with what Dainsleif is saying, once again he's bringing up that whole question of, can this person handle themselves if shit hits the fan? And what I liked about it is that they obviously state that Gorou does care for his soldiers and for the people of the island, and because of that he has a lot of responsibility and he's constantly in overwork mode, essentially. When will that not be the case? Will that ever not be the case? Will he eventually crack, and will the pressure actually get to him? So with that said, this video about Gorou's moves is probably the best video to watch to understand who Gorou is. Because his other stuff, I'm staying firm, not that great, don't know shit about the guy. This, there's actually a little more insight, and yes, he is still a soldier, but he is a very, I almost want to say overworked soldier, but because he cares. That is cool to me because that's not something that the other stuff shared with us. And that's why this is probably the best Gorou thing to watch.
Although the paths through the lofty peaks of Jueyun Karst are arduous, there are always bright-eyed mortals who come seeking the adeptal path. For all their ambition, most mere mortals cannot fathom the way to the Adepti, and return from their fruitless journeys disappointed. Yet those fortunate enough to encounter some hardship may suddenly find themselves being rescued by a divine young lady. Stunned by the elegance of their silver-haired savior, they hastily begin bowing excitedly in reverence and adulation, only to find their Adeptus rescuer remain indifferent and leave without even a second glance.
I will do as you command.
Though Shenhe is often mistaken for an Adeptus, she is actually a mortal, albeit one who is an accomplished Adepti disciple. Being naturally gifted, and having learned polearm combat and various adeptal arts from her masters, exorcising evil spirits is a mere trifle to her. Under her master's tutelage, Shenhe trained diligently, producing impressive results. When Shenhe is dispatched on a 20-hour expedition in Liyue, she will obtain increased rewards. Shenhe's normal attack can combo up to 5 strikes with her polearm, dealing physical damage. Shenhe's charged attack consumes a set amount of stamina to lunge forward, dealing damage to enemies in her path. When she casts Spring Spirit Summoning, Shenhe grants all nearby party members the Icy Quill effect, and deals cryo damage in different ways based on whether the skill is tapped or held. When tapped, Shenhe will rush forward with a Talisman Spirit, dealing cryo damage to enemies along her path. When held, Shenhe commands the Talisman Spirit to deal AoE cryo damage to surrounding enemies. When party members are affected by Icy Quill, normal, charged, and plunging attacks, elemental skills, and elemental bursts that deal cryo damage to enemies deal increased damage based on Shenhe's current attack. The Icy Quill's effect will be cleared once its duration ends, or after being triggered a certain number of times. When the skill is held rather than tapped, the effect lasts longer and can be triggered more times. When a party member with the Icy Quill effect deals an instance of cryo damage to multiple enemies, the effect is triggered multiple times, according to the number of enemies hit. The number of times Icy Quill's effect is triggered is calculated separately for each party member. After unlocking the talent Spirit Communion Seal, when Shenhe casts Spring Spirit Summoning, she grants additional effects to all nearby party members. Tapping the skill increases their elemental skill and elemental burst damage, while holding the skill increases their normal, charged, and plunging attack damage.
Cryo Incarnate!
Shenhe unleashes the power of the Talisman Spirit, allowing it to roam free, dealing AoE cryo damage. The Talisman Spirit then creates a field, which decreases the cryo and physical resistance of enemies within, and also deals periodic cryo damage to them. After unlocking the talent Deific Embrace, an active character within the AoE of Divine Maiden's Deliverance will gain a cryo damage bonus. Shenhe is fated to bear the curse of calamity. As cautioned by the Adepti, she is careful to avoid harming the innocent. But as for those with malicious intent, she is only too happy to put them in their place by giving them a taste of the Adepti arts. Shenhe's Spring Spirit Summoning is the core of her skill set, offering support to other cryo party members with the Icy Quill effect. In battle, Proficient use of her elemental skills' tap and hold effects allows Shenhe to shine by enhancing the party's attack capabilities. When energy is full, Shenhe unleashes her elemental burst, decreasing enemies' cryo and physical resistance, and creating the opportune moment to defeat the weakened enemies. Liyue Harbor is known as a bustling melting pot of a city, ready to welcome any and every lonely figure. But if Shenhe truly wishes to rejoin human society, there is much she will have to learn. Even I myself do not relish the solitary life I lead. When others are fortunate enough to meet a companion for their journey, I sincerely wish them the very best. After all, to this day, I hold that people should be authors of their own fate, both the crane ready to make peace with the past, and the beast with a grudge to bear have the freedom to make their journey home.
Okay. A little bit about Dainsleif first here at the end. It seems in the beginning and ends of these, of course, is when we find out the most about him and his way of thinking. And a lot of it is essentially repeated or reaffirming some things we already thought, such as he believes that mortals, that people have their own choices. And what I find interesting here is that there are characters, such as the Adepti, who he's not a huge fan of. However, there are some exceptions where he can see where they're coming from and what they're dealing with. And being involved with the Adepti, it seems that these characters who are kind of outsiders, or that they have to be in a way, at least from mortals. They don't really intermingle well for whatever reasons in his eyes. He mentioned this with Ganyu before. There were hints about it with Zhao, and now even here he says that although she is not an Adepti, she is trained by one, and by doing so she kind of also has this life of solitude, and he can relate to that. I just like, although I've pointed out that Dainsleif is stubborn, he still finds a way to relate to these other characters in some ways. So, although he might not be a huge fan of the gods and the Adepti for being associated with them, he still understands some things that most people go through, such as a life of solitude and being alone, and that he can relate to that feeling because whatever he had to do and the things that he's done, he is probably pretty alone in his own journey. And he mentions making peace with the past and making that journey home. So there is definitely something that had gone on. Like, I don't know, yeah, he talks about this life of solitude, and perhaps there are past grudges involved that have led to so-and-so's life to be that way, maybe referring to the Adepti, for reasons. And even Dainsleif is talking about forgiveness and things like that. As far as Shenhe goes, she's a gorgeous character, cryo character, all about it. She looks like she's a lot of fun. She also looks like she would be best on a cryo party, like how Gorou would be best if everyone on the team was Geo. And you probably don't have to play that way, but to get the best usage of these characters, it seems like you do kind of need to lean in that direction. So it does seem a little niche. However, because I'm such a huge fan of so many cryo characters, maybe I do want to eventually save my way up to making a cryo party for just because. But let me know what you think about something like that. Do you prefer to have characters that are all mixes of different elements, or do you But please let me know what you think about that. Would you prefer to have a party with characters of different elements, or would you like to kind of boost one particular element over other ones, and which one would that be if there is one that you like in particular? I don't know if that made any more sense, but we're going to continue.
The people of Liyue have always been fond of Liyue opera. The reason? Only through these old tales from eons ago can they witness the legendary feats of the Adepti. But ever since the young Yunjin became director of the Yunhan Opera Troupe, not only has she excelled in classical Adepti-style opera, but she has also brought her own original stories to the stage, recounting tales of the common folk. It is often said that listening to Ms. Yun's new operas is like unwrapping a gift box. Anticipation followed by sheer delight.
Which opera shall we perform today?
Fans of Liyue opera all agree that Yunjin has boundless talent, performing admirably both on the stage and on the battlefield. When defending herself from the enemy, Yunjin deftly adapts the techniques of stage combat, turning defense into offense and putting on a show her enemies won't forget in a hurry. In order to satisfy her appetite, while maintaining a perfect figure and singing voice, Yunjin developed a certain knack for cooking. When Yunjin achieves perfect cooking on dishes with adventure-related effects, she has a certain chance to cook double the amount. Yunjin's normal attack can combo up to 5 strikes, dealing physical damage. Yunjin's charged attack consumes a set amount of stamina to lunge forward, dealing physical damage to enemies in her path. Tap her elemental skill, and Yunjin strikes from a cloud-grasping stance, dealing geo damage. When the skill is held, Yunjin adopts the opening flourish stance and charges up, forming a shield. The shield's damage absorption scales off Yunjin's max HP, and has increased effectiveness against all elemental and physical damage. When the skill is released, its duration ends, or when the shield breaks, Yunjin will unleash the charged energy as an attack, dealing geo damage. Based on the time spent charging, the attack will unleash at charge level 1 or charge level 2. After unlocking the talent true to oneself, using opening flourish at the precise moment when Yunjin is attacked will unleash its level 2 charged form. Proficient use of these skills allows Yunjin to effectively fend off enemy attacks and strike back.
Break a leg!
Unleashing Yunjin's elemental burst deals AoE geo damage and grants the Flying Cloud Flag formation to nearby party members. When characters with Flying Cloud Flag formation deal normal attack damage to enemies, they will deal bonus damage based on Yunjin's current defense. The effects of Flying Cloud Flag formation will be cleared after a set duration, or after being triggered a set number of times. When one normal attack hits multiple enemies, the effect is triggered multiple times according to the number of enemies hit. The number of times triggered is counted independently for each member of the party. After unlocking the talent Breaking Conventions, the normal attack damage bonus granted by Flying Cloud Flag formation is further increased. The more elemental types among your party members, the greater the increase. Unlike on the stage, there is no script to rely on in battle. But in Yunjin's mind, unexpected enemies serve as her best rehearsal partners, providing fresh inspiration with their unscripted attacks. In battle, Yunjin must make deft use of her elemental skill. She waits for the moment and counterattacks when the enemy is vulnerable to gain the upper hand. When her energy is full, Yunjin unleashes her elemental burst, granting nearby party members the Flying Cloud Flag formation, increasing her teammates' normal attack damage, and helping them to finish off their enemies. Compared to a lifetime, a single opera performance is short-lived. And against the vastness of history, mortal lives are like walk-on parts in a grand play, drops in a boundless ocean. However spellbinding the performance, the curtain call will come and the audience will leave. Perhaps this is why Yunjin incorporates the details of ordinary lives into her scripts, portraying the trials and tribulations of the common folk alongside grand tales of gods and adepti, preserving their stories in operatic form to honor the human experience for generations to come. I happen to know a story about the heavenly principles and mortals, about cataclysm and peace, curse and devastation. If I were to share this story with Yunjin, I do wonder how her theatrical interpretation would turn out.
A little bit more about Dainsleif there, referring to his past and what he's seen. It's interesting that he ponders these things. He does a lot of ifs. It's hard to say whether or not Dainsleif would make an appearance to go speak to someone like Yunjin to see what she would have to say about his grand stories. Part of me tells me that he would never. I don't think he would consider himself to be a mortal, like a normal person at this point in time. To me, it seems like he does a lot of like self-representation of people, of mortal people, for someone who is definitely not a mortal person. But yeah, Yunjin here, and this kind of not necessarily answers my question that I had prior, but it does bring up the little idea of having a party that's all one thing, and then having a party that's a mix of things. For example, with Yunjin, if I understand correctly, you wouldn't necessarily want to use her in a party that is all Geo characters, because her ability seems like it works best if there are different characters with different elements within your party. And I might be late to this, I'm just kind of getting it now, I think, but it seems like most Geo characters scale with their defense stat, Hydro characters scale with their HP, and so on with some other ones that maybe I didn't really catch. Is that always the case, or is that just some characters? Like, can a Geo character scale with HP or scale with a different stat other than defense? Or because they're a Geo character and they're, you know, rocks meant to be like tough, is it always defense? I'm kind of just seeing this now, and I don't know if it's always been that way, but that's what it appears. So I know I've been asking a lot of questions throughout these things. You guys don't feel the need to answer all of them. I know this is a long video, and I appreciate you just for being here. I'll be doing my own research and things one of these days. In general, anyway. I'm actually not that super concerned with the meta, but I do think it's important that I do know some things in general, because why not, right? It'd be helpful.
Yae Miko is a divine kitsune, as the Electro Archons familiar and Guji of the Grand Narukami Shrine. Her dignified presence commands awe and respect. But as chief editor of the Yae Publishing House, and a patron and participant of festivities, her crafty tone keeps you guessing. This leaves many uncertain of how to deal with the majestic but mystifying Miko. In reality, however, if you want to make Lady Guji smile, you needn't deliver an eloquent speech. You simply need to say these 4 magic words. Something amusing just happened.
Whatever would you do without me?
I thought it was going to be step on me,
Miko's
mommy.
eyes, shooing away pesky intruders is a tedious task that does not require her personal involvement. She can leave this to the kitsune spirits. Only when her curiosity is aroused will Yae Miko show her fabled fox form and summon lightning plummeting from above. It's said that those lucky enough to witness this spectacle never live to tell of the tale. With her age and experience, Yae Miko is one of the most learned in the land. Even if the spur-of-the-moment stories she enjoys telling make this hard to believe. When Yae Miko crafts character talent materials, there is a chance to obtain 1 extra random item of the same region. This item has the same rarity as the material consumed. Yae Miko's normal attack performs up to 3 consecutive attacks, dealing electro damage. Her charged attack consumes a set amount of stamina and deals AoE electro damage after a short casting time. Tap her elemental skill, and Yae Miko moves swiftly, leaving behind a Seisho Sakura. While on the field, It periodically strikes one nearby enemy with lightning, dealing electro damage. This skill has 3 charges, and a maximum of 3 Seisho Sakura can exist at one time. If another Seisho Sakura is nearby, its level is increased, meaning its lightning strikes deal more damage. Initially, Seisho Sakura are created at level 1, and the maximum level is 3. By strategically spacing the Seisho Sakura, Miko can quickly create an ideal formation to increase their damage level and put her enemy in a difficult position. When the Guji of the shrine recites a blessing, thunder roars in response. After unlocking the talent Enlightened Blessing, Seisho Sakura damage is increased, based on Miko's elemental mastery.
I'm always watching.
When Miko unleashes her elemental burst, she summons a lightning strike, dealing AoE electro damage. When cast, Miko unseals nearby Seisho Sakura, destroying their outer forms and transforming them into Tenko Thunderbolts, dealing further AoE electro damage. For each Seisho Sakura destroyed in this way, 1 Tenko Thunderbolt strikes down. After unlocking the talent, the Shrine's Sacred Shade, when Miko casts her elemental burst, each Seisho Sakura destroyed resets the cooldown for 1 charge of her elemental skill. Don't let Miko's graceful outward appearance fool you into thinking she is gracious in temperament, for that would be a fatal error. During battle, Miko does not think twice before unleashing Seisho Sakura. She ensnares the enemy in a perilous position, dealing damage and creating opportunities for teammates to attack. When energy is full, Miko unleashes her elemental burst, unsealing nearby Seisho Sakura and summoning Tenko Thunderbolts to make sure these tiresome foes disappear for good. In storytelling skill, the writers of the Yae Publishing House are my superior. When I get talking, I tend to speak of true historical events. But under Chief Editor Yae's guidance, works of sheer fantasy thrive, accounting for the vast majority of popular light novels. Maybe in another few centuries, archaeologists will find books filled with pure fiction, mistake them for rare historical records, and draw all kinds of conclusions from them. Perhaps by then, the truth of the past will be consumed as entertaining fiction. Its only purpose, to meet people's need for novelty, save for the sneering of the kitsune. All that will remain is the despairing sighs of the long forgotten.
Wow, okay. I love Miko. Her fighting style is interesting. I knew from watching, I think, her demo that she left these spiritual kitsune totems, and I thought you had to trap enemies inside of them for them to do anything. However, that doesn't seem to be the case. You just have to do like the triangle relatively near where the combat's happening. I don't think you have to lock them into place around a enemy. Her special ability is by far the most seductive thing that I've seen, that look on her face. And 2 other things that were mentioned here. They said that Miko was Raiden's familiar. Now, did they mean that in a sense where familiar as in actually familiar with her because they're pals, or familiar because Miko is a kitsune that was essentially summoned from another realm or created by or Raiden Shogun herself? Because when I hear familiar, I think of like a wizard and their owl or crow or cat or something. So that does make me want to definitely learn more about Miko in the future. I mean, as I will with all these characters. But the idea of her possibly being brought into this world or created from nothing for the sake of just being a friend or an assistant or whatever that is pretty interesting. And how she kind of just has her own life now here. Pretty cool. pretty cool. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I might be overthinking it. I find it entertaining how perturbed Dainsleif is by Miko and what she does. The fact that her whole book thing is based off of fictional stories, that it's not recording history and real life events. Dainsleif's not a fan of fiction. He wants people to know the facts. And it does kind of, there is that question of, if people were to dig up these books in the future when everything else is gone and they read these fantastical stories that do not depict real life and what had happened here, like that's gonna be depressing and they'll be led astray. Almost like what Hoyoverse does in their version trailers and other character demos, especially as of late. The heck, guys? Miko is the author for Genshin. Figured it out. Alright, moving on.
Hey there. I couldn't help but notice that you haven't subscribed yet. What's up with that? It's kinda embarrassing. Don't worry, it looks like this. I hope you can find it. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Surrounding the epicenter of power is a tangled web of powerful factions, where vested interests and hidden agendas lurk beneath the surface. For someone to not only rise to the top in this environment, but also maintain stability, they must be exceptionally shrewd and highly skilled. Anyone who hopes to meet the man at the top would be wise to first make sure that they know exactly whose side they're on.
What's that? Join you for a walk? Why not?
Kamisato Ayato is the Yashiro commissioner. As heir to his clan, he has trained for this role all his life, including in the martial arts. His fighting style channels the power of Hydro through the forms of Kamisato art. A strong current hides beneath the tranquil surface, ready to overwhelm his foes like a flash flood. To the clan leader, whose every meal is prepared for him by his staff, cooking is not a necessity, but a pastime. When Kamisato Ayato cooks a perfect dish, he has a chance to obtain a suspicious dish of the same kind. Kamisato Ayato's normal attack can combo up to 5 slashes, dealing physical damage. Cool. His charged attack consumes a set amount of stamina to charge forward and perform the EI technique, dealing physical damage. Tap his elemental skill to shift positions and enter the Takemiguri Kanka state. After this shift, a watery illusion forms in Ayato's original position. After forming, the watery illusion will explode if enemies are near or when its duration ends, dealing AoE hydro damage. While in the Takemiguri Kanka state, Ayato unleashes rapid Shinsuiken attacks, converting his normal attack damage into AoE hydro damage that cannot be overridden. After a Shinsuiken attack hits an enemy, Ayato receives the Namisen effect, which increases Shinsuiken attack damage based on his current max HP. The maximum number of Namisen stacks starts at 4. Stacks can be gained via Shinsuiken attacks once per set time period, and disappear when the Takemiguri Kanka state ends. Also, while in the Takemiguri Kanka state, Ayato's resistance to interruption is increased, but he cannot perform charged or plunging attacks. After unlocking the talent Mineo Matoishi Kiyotaki, Ayato receives 2 Namisen stacks immediately after casting his elemental skill. And when the watery illusion explodes, Ayato gains a Namisen effect equivalent to the maximum number of stacks.
Kamisato art, Suiyu!
When Ayato unleashes his elemental burst, he unveils a garden of purity that silences the cacophony within. While this space exists, bloom water blades rain down continuously, attacking enemies within range and dealing hydro damage. The normal attack damage of characters within this space is also increased. Ripples on water destroy the immaculate face of the moon in its midst, but it regains its composure the moment after they pass. After unlocking the talent Michiyuku Hagetsu, when Ayato is not on the field, if his elemental energy is below a certain threshold, he continuously regains energy. Kamisato Ayato keeps a low profile and rarely shows his true talents, but when those lured into a false sense of security seek to move against him, he is only too happy to deal with them himself. The Shinsuiken is Ayato's main means of attack. During battle, Ayato coordinates with his teammates to produce hydro-based elemental reactions and take down groups of enemies with a barrage of Shinsuken strikes to gain the upper hand. When energy is full, Ayato unleashes his elemental burst, unveiling a Garden of Purity, which increases party members' normal attack damage and sets the stage for further elemental reactions to flush out any final remnants. Many years ago, the Yashiro Commission faced upheaval for their transgressions. The Kamisato clan survives today because they found favor in the eyes of a god, but they bear an eternal obligation to be guardians of the divine. If you ask the head of the Kamisato clan what he truly holds sacred, I dare say the will of the gods would not be his answer. And so, though Kamisato Ayato appears to handle his affairs with consummate ease, when all is said and done, he is simply an ordinary soul caught between the divine and the mundane. If there comes a day when the instruction of the gods conflicts with that which he has sworn to protect, how then will he preserve his delicately maintained stability?
Ayato is a burst rifle. I definitely can see two sides to his playstyle, where some people would be like, maybe kind of boring, and then others just running up going bam, 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 bam. They would find that very satisfying. I can see the appeal in it. I don't necessarily know yet if it's a playstyle I would like, but there is something cool about that character that is so fast you can barely see the swiping of the blade, and he just keeps and unsheathing his sword so fast that he's just striking that fast and efficiently. There is a cool feel to it. I'm just wondering, does it remain cool? Do you have that feeling still after you do it for the 1000th time? And this kind of fighting style is what made me think of Nouvelette a little bit recently in some videos, because he's mostly stationary doing things. But I got some interesting answers about his play style and how it's fun just to, you know, essentially do this hydro blast. So yeah, I believe that Ayato would, based on the other things that I've seen, such as his teaser and when he had appeared in Tsubaki in Thawing Snow, he's definitely, in my opinion, a man of the people. He's for the everyday person, and he wants to protect them so they can enjoy life and the little things, because if he knows that if he doesn't, they will either pick up their own arms and go to war to defend in what they believe in, or possibly be lost. But if he does it, then they don't have to do it themselves, and they can remain protected and enjoying their life. Good guy Ayato. For the next 6 minutes and 9 seconds, I'm going to be screaming internally. Let's begin.
In the business of national security, the public eye poses many restrictions. While trouble brews in the shadows, it helps to bring in special talent. Someone who can move freely between different circles, covering their tracks as they go. But be warned, this kind of collaboration could cost you, so make sure it's worth the price.
It is.
Who's our target this time?
Yelan is a master of the bow, whose hydrovision takes her abilities to new heights. Stronger and more daring than most, she thrives in dangerous situations, leading her enemies slowly but surely into her trap. For Yelan, staying alert to new intel of all kinds is second nature. Wherever she goes, whatever she does, she always returns with a wealth of resources. When Yelan is dispatched on a 20-hour expedition in Lian, she will obtain increased rewards. Yelan's normal attack can combo up to 4 consecutive shots, dealing physical damage. Holding the attack button executes a more precise shot that deals increased damage. While aiming, flowing water accumulates on the arrowhead. A fully charged arrow deals hydro damage on hit. After leaving combat for a short time, Yelan gains the breakthrough effect. which greatly decreases the charge time of her next aimed shot, and fires a breakthrough barb at full charge. The breakthrough barb deals AoE hydro damage that scales based on Yelan's max HP. When she casts her elemental skill, Yelan moves rapidly using her lifeline, latching onto and marking enemies as she goes. Tapping and holding the skill produce different effects. When tapped, Yelan rapidly dashes forward a short distance. While held, Yelan remains in a rapid movement state and gains increased resistance to interruption while in that state. During this time, Yelan can control the direction she sprints in and can cast the skill again to exit the rapid movement state. Using this skill, she can quickly approach groups of enemies while easily avoiding some of their attacks. Furthermore, it helps her explore the surrounding terrain more rapidly. When rapid movement ends, Lifeline will explode and deal hydro damage to marked enemies based on Yelan's max HP. Also, when Lifeline explodes, the number of enemies marked affects her chance to gain the breakthrough effect. The more enemies marked, the higher the chance to gain the effect.
Game's up. Fun's over.
When Yelan unleashes her elemental burst, she deals AoE hydro damage to nearby enemies and creates an exquisite throw to assist in battle. Exquisite throw follows the active character, and when they perform a normal attack, or Yelan's lifeline explodes and hits an enemy, Exquisite Throw will join in the attack, dealing hydro damage based on Yelan's max HP. After unlocking the talent Adapt with Ease, the active character's damage dealt gradually increases while Exquisite Throw is present. If the Elemental Burst is cast again while this effect is active, the effect will be cleared. Before the fun of guessing the enemy's next move begins, Yelan inspects her hand and tallies up her strengths. After unlocking the talent Turn Control, Yelan's max HP is increased, based on the number of elemental types in the party. The more elemental types, the greater the increase.
Okay.
Wherever there is intrigue, Yelan is in the background, quietly weaving her web. By the time her prey notices, it's already too late. In battle, Yelan likes to open with her breakthrough barb. Before using her elemental skill to approach nearby enemies, she ensnares her targets with lifeline, then lets it explode and deal damage. After the explosion, if she has the breakthrough effect, Yelan may follow up with another breakthrough barb to inflict further damage. When energy is full, Yelan unleashes her elemental burst to create an exquisite throw, providing hydro damage and a damage boost, so the team can round up the remaining foes. Fate is a cruel and perilous thing. It bodes only ill, lurking in dark places like the chasm. To me, that place is the epitome of human misfortune. People died there, far from their homes. People with hopes and dreams, dutiful to the bitter end. Different motivations resulted in the same tragic conclusion. People ought to fear disaster, unless they can learn to draw strength from their fear. Perhaps Yelan is just such a unique case. Undeterred by fate's cruel design, there is no path she will not go down in the pursuit of secrets. But what if, one day, she descends into a place from which there is no escape? I am curious, by which of her many sides would she see herself be remembered?
Ooh. Would she see herself remembered? Would she want to be remembered? I mean, I guess ideally you would want to have people remember you. Some people, it's a little different where, you know, some people only care about their friends and family and whoever they've been close with to remember them when they're gone. And then there's other people who want more than that, who want to have a bigger effect on the world and be remembered for what they did, what they've accomplished, probably, right? However, I'm sure there's some people that have done such things and don't really care to or don't want to be remembered. It's interesting for him to bring up Yelan and the fact that she works in secrets, looking for secrets and knowledge, things like that, and that because she's so secretive, is she going to be okay with not being able to, not having a history, essentially, people not remembering her for what she did, because it's not the kind of stuff you would really talk about, unless if she's bringing these secrets to light and that whole thing is publicized. But I don't think that's the case with her. I think Dainsleif wants to be remembered, though. I think he is all about being in secret for the most part, only popping up here and there to do his thing. But he has referred to, what if I shared my stories? What if people experienced the things that I've experienced? I mean, these things are about other characters, but he talks about himself a lot, and I think he projects. I think he's projecting a lot of this stuff with these characters. Can they handle this? Would they be able to see things this way? If such and such an event happened, blah, blah, blah. And now he's talking about, like, would she be okay if no one remembered? I don't know, Dane, would you be okay if no one knows who you are? I'm not sure. It does sound like there's already been a lot of sacrificing that he has done in order to be wherever he is. So I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I'm just speculating on how Dane probably thinks and sees himself. Now I'm going to talk about Yelan. Yelan's gameplay is amazing looking. I love that stealth run that she can do to traverse the world faster. That's awesome. That must come in clutch. I like her thread thing that she has and how easy that is to apply to enemies. Yeah, I just really like the whole setup that she has and her way of just moving around the field and tripping up everyone in her trap, essentially. She looks like a super, super fun character that you can get addicted to playing as. And of course, there's more that I'd like to say about her, but if I continue, that's just going to turn into barking, so I'm going to stop before that happens. Okay.
You may be forgiven for wondering how an organization as chaotic as the Arataki gang has managed to survive as long as it has, despite the near-daily conflict they stir up and frequent stints in jail. Somehow, the fallout of their antics is successfully contained time and again. Luckily for them, the Arataki gang does have one member who actually has their head screwed on.
Don't tell me they did it again.
Kuki Shinobu doesn't go looking for trouble, but it always finds its way to her via the company she keeps. This gives her a wealth of experience in cleaning up after others. No matter how tricky things get, Shinobu is always able to help her friends out of a tight spot with the aid of her electrovision, deftly diffusing the situation every time. If there were qualifications for expedition expertise, Kuki Shinobu would likely be certified at the highest level. When Kuki Shinobu is dispatched on a 20-hour expedition in Inazuma, she will obtain increased rewards. Kuki Shinobu's normal attack can combo up to 4 strikes, dealing physical damage to enemies. Her charged attack consumes a certain amount of stamina to perform 2 swift strikes to the front, dealing physical damage. When she casts her elemental skill, Shinobu consumes some HP to create a ring of sanctification, dealing electro damage to surrounding enemies. The ring of sanctification follows the active character and periodically deals electro damage to nearby enemies, while also healing active characters nearby. The healing amount scales with Shinobu's max HP. HP consumed by her elemental skill will not decrease her HP lower than a certain level. After unlocking the talent Breaking Free, when Kuki Shinobu's HP is low, she will gain an increased healing bonus. Though the Arataki gang causes her no end of trouble, it's the one place Kuki Shinobu has the freedom to be herself. After unlocking the talent Heart's Repose, the healing effect and damage dealt by Sanctifying Ring will increase, based on Shinobu's elemental mastery. When Shinobu unleashes her elemental burst, she stabs her blade into the ground, creating a field that excoriates evil. This field deals continuous electro damage, based on Shinobu's max HP. When she casts her elemental burst, if Shinobu's HP is low, the field will last longer. Kuki Shinobu is uncertain of the criteria for obtaining a vision, but that doesn't stop her from taking full advantage of its power. In combat, Shinobu supports her teammates by using her elemental skill to create a ring of sanctification. Besides healing nearby active characters, the ring also creates ideal conditions for elemental reactions, allowing her teammates to easily gain the upper hand. When energy is full, Shinobu unleashes her elemental burst, creating a cleansing field that deals continuous electro damage to enemies in its AoE, paving the way to a decisive victory. To most, the world provides boundless possibilities, and people are free to make their own choices as long as they are ready to accept the consequences. Fortunately, Kuki Shinobu is a talented individual, and the troubles stirred up by the Arataki gang are a price worth paying for her freedom. To thank Kujo Sara for an introduction, Shinobu once treated her to drinks at Uyu Restaurant. I doubt that the Tenryou Commission General could have ever imagined a throwaway comment she made over drinks with her friend would end up ensuring the longevity of the Arataki gang, cementing their place as a thorn in her side for years to come.
Not much from Dainsleif in that one. Of course, he gave his little input there at the end. And yeah, Shinobu's pretty cool. And this also answered a question that I had where she is, let's see, she scales with HP and she's not a Hydro character. So that's pretty interesting right there. Wasn't expecting that. She's kind of seems like how Thoma was a pyro user but used more defense abilities. Kuki is this electro user that uses like more, I mean, she has her attacks, but she's also more support, right? Like she buffs and she heals. And what's really cool is that, like some other characters, she also sacrifices her health, and the less health she has, the bigger effect that her abilities have. So I like that little thing right there. That's pretty cool. And it actually, I feel like it connects well with her character, considering that she's the peacekeeper. And I mean, if you're a peacekeeper, you're also self-sacrificing in a way, right? You're using your own time and energy to make sure everyone else around you is okay. So yeah, the more strain she has on herself, the better off her abilities go off. So yeah, interesting. Okay, it's pretty cool. I like that.
Technically speaking, the Tenryou Commission has no formal position called detective. However, formal or not, Doshin Shikanoin is indisputably the Commission's top sleuth. And every co-worker and criminal he has ever met has come to refer to him as that famous detective. Even the most rigid of rules will bend to accommodate extraordinary talent. And so the young prodigy detective's reputation only continues to grow.
I'm on the case.
Heizou prefers to avoid physical combat and prides himself on winning battles with his intellect. However, even he admits that sometimes the martial arts skills that his father made him learn are vital when defending himself in the pursuit of justice. Although cracking cases is a detective's core duty, Heizou believes his true calling lies in preventing would-be criminals from ever committing crimes in the first place. When Shikanoin Heizou is in the party, he reduces sprinting stamina consumption for your own party members, making exploration faster. Heizou's normal attack performs up to 5 strikes that deal anemo damage. His charged attack consumes a set amount of stamina to perform a sweeping kick, dealing anemo damage. Tap Heizou's elemental skill to wield the Swift Winds and launch a powerful strike that deals anemo damage. Holding the skill charges energy, and allows Heizou to obtain up to 4 stacks of the declension effect, which increases the power of the next elemental skill. When the skill button is released, or the skill finishes charging, Heizou strikes forward, dealing anemo damage. When Heizou possesses 4 declension stacks, the conviction effect is produced, further increasing the damage and AoE of the next elemental skill. After unlocking the talent's paradoxical practice, Shikanoin Heizou will gain 1 declension stack when he triggers a swirl reaction on the field. This effect can only be gained once per short period. Strategic use of this effect allows Heizou to quickly gain declension stacks and increase the power of the elemental skill. Sharp investigative instincts enable Heizou to quickly pinpoint the motive and method behind a crime. His sheer brilliance means that many aspire to one day partner with him on a case. When the talent Penetrative Reasoning is unlocked, after Heizou's elemental skill hits an opponent, the elemental mastery of all other party members is increased for a limited time.
Confess!
When Heizou unleashes his elemental burst, he leaps into the air and kicks the Fudo-style vacuum slugger towards the enemy. The vacuum slugger explodes on hit, creating a wind tunnel that pulls in nearby objects and opponents and deals AoE anemo damage. When Vacuum Slugger hits enemies affected by Hydro, Pyro, Cryo, or Electro, it afflicts them with Windbuster Iris. Moments later, Windbuster Iris explodes and dissipates, dealing AoE damage of the corresponding elemental type. Vacuum Slugger can afflict a maximum of 4 enemies with the Windbuster Iris. A single enemy cannot be affected by irises of different elemental types at the same time. Though Shikanoin Heizou always chooses brains over brawn, he is nimble and well-practiced in the martial arts of his clan. This, plus his keen sense of battle judgment, makes him more competent at close-quarters combat than most imagine. In battle, the elemental skill is Heizou's main means of attack. A smart offensive allows him to rack up declension stacks and unleash a more powerful elemental skill. When energy is full, Heizou unleashes his elemental burst and uses the Vacuum Slugger to deal anemo damage. By effectively coordinating with his teammates, Heizou can afflict enemies with the Windbuster Iris, lowering their defenses while assisting his allies. For most detectives, finding the truth is the end goal of every case. Once the file is closed and the criminal brought to justice, the satisfied sleuth sits back and congratulates themselves on a job well done. But even a job well done is not enough for Heizou. Finding the truth is good, but finding a way to dissuade criminals in the first place is even better. If it were anyone else, I would laugh off their delusions of grandeur. Surely no single detective could hope to reduce crime through the sheer weight of their reputation. And yet, in the case of Shikanoin Heizou, I find myself entertaining a faint and uncharacteristic sense of optimism. With that said, it is a pity that a detective of his caliber was unavailable to take on the case of the deicide of the God of Contracts.
I like him. I don't know, something I've said this a billion times, but characters who are brawlers, there's something about it. It's the whole game feel thing, which I talked about in one of my Risley videos that I did, so you can go check those out if you want to hear what I actually said about that kind of thing in more detail. But in general, I can feel like, you know, the satisfaction that you get from the attacks just by watching, and that's the case here. I wasn't really sure what it was going to really look like or play out, but I really like how Heizou moves and does the abilities. And then there's that elemental mastery that I guess that decreasing the cooldown of your elemental attacks is what I believe that is, possibly, or what that might have to do with that. And it's just cool how you can kind of chain these things and move into one attack into another, and you're positioning yourself on the field, and you're just constantly juggling your enemies and knocking them prone and all that stuff, and it just looks like a lot of fun. And yeah, that was cool. And as far as Dane goes here, good old Dainsleif, he's doing his thing as he does. And I guess for me, listening and watching these back to back, Dainsleif tends to say a lot of not necessarily the same but very similar things, and you get his motives through these. And I know that these aren't, you're not really, I guess, meant to watch these back to back. It's just whenever the character comes out, these videos are made available, and then you watch it, and then it's Hoyo versus Way of reminding you, like, yeah, Dane's here, and this is how he feels about some certain things, you know, blah blah blah, just as a reminder, in case you forgot. It'll come up later. So it's interesting. And I mean, this is Inazuma, but he's referring to the god of contracts, which would be the Geo Archon, and that would be, from my knowledge, Zhongli, unless if there's something else that happens in the story where it's not Zhongli, but as far as I know, Zhongli would be that guy. So it's cool that he's, even though this is a Inazuma character, he is referring to another region, and how if this guy was around way back when that was being a thing, he'd be able to deduce what was actually going on, because of course Dainsleif is all about, like, the Archons being corrupted and such. So yeah, cool. I liked it. Okay, so this next one is Tighnari, and in my past videos I have talked about how I'm not a huge fan of Tighnari's design. In my opinion, I know there's a lot of inspiration and influence from all sorts of cultures, and it's cool that they reference that. At the same time, I'm not a huge fan of his design, but as far as the character is, I've grown to like the character more than I originally had. So there's some things, of course, that I can overlook. I heard he's a lot of fun to play as in the game, so I'm gonna go into this open-minded, and yeah, let's see if I can learn a little bit more about Tighnari here.
Compared to ferocious beasts, it's hard to imagine placid plants ever posing a serious threat to humans. But deep within the sprawling forest, where the vegetation grows unchecked, there is no telling what dangers may lurk within. So never underestimate the rainforest, for life is a formidable force. If you're hoping to pass through the Avidia forest without incident, you would be wise to heed the stern warnings of the Forest Watcher.
I'll lead the way.
Tighnari believes that the best thing to do with knowledge is to utilize it effectively in everyday life. Applying his botanical expertise in the use of his dendrovision has helped him to both advance his research and protect the rainforest's ecosystem. To be an effective forest watcher requires a keen, observant pair of eyes. When Tighnari is in your party, the location of resources unique to Sumeru will appear on your minimap, making it easier to gather supplies.
It makes sense it would be with this guy.
Tighnari's normal attack can combo up to 4 consecutive shots, dealing physical damage. With a charged attack, Tighnari executes a more precise, aimed shot that deals increased damage. The shot has different effects depending on how long the charging lasts. At charge level 1, Tighnari fires a dendro-infused arrow that deals dendro damage. At charge level 2, Tighnari fires a wreath arrow that deals dendro damage. After hitting its target, several cluster bloom arrows are generated that will auto-target nearby enemies and deal further dendro damage. When the talent Keen Sight is unlocked, after Tighnari fires a wreath arrow, his elemental mastery will be increased for a limited time. Tighnari's elemental skill throws a Vijnana Stormheart ahead of him that deals AoE dendro damage, and creates a Vijnana Khanda field, which summons strange illusions to taunt enemies and draw their fire. Also, Tighnari gains the Vijnana Suffusion effect, that decreases the charging time of the next wreath arrow. This effect will dissipate once the duration ends, or after Tighnari has fired a certain number of wreath arrows.
I'll uproot you!
When Tighnari unleashes his elemental burst, he harnesses the power of germination and fires 6 Tanglevine tendrils that automatically target enemies and deal dendro damage. After the Tanglevine tendrils hit their target, a second wave of tendrils is produced that also auto-target enemies and deal dendro damage. After studying the properties of a diverse range of plants, Tighnari gained a wealth of new insight into dendro-infused arrows. After unlocking the talent Scholarly Blade, for every point of elemental mastery Tighnari possesses, his charged attack and elemental burst damage are increased. Damage can only be increased up to a certain limit. Poorly prepared hikers and fierce monsters are constant troubles in the rainforest. An earnest, informative lecture is sufficient to deal with the former. But in the case of the latter, Tighnari shows no mercy. During battle, Tighnari first uses his elemental skill to create a Vijnana Khanda field to taunt enemies and obtain the Vijnana Suffusion effect. From a safe vantage point, he can now quickly charge and fire wreath arrows to deal dendro damage to enemies. When energy is full, Tighnari unleashes his elemental burst, firing Tanglevine tendrils that pursue enemies. 2 waves of Tanglevines will home in on enemies to root out the problem at the source. Even as I speak, strange events that I cannot comprehend are unfolding in Sumeru City. Fortunately for Tighnari, though he lacks knowledge of the full situation, his intuition has saved him from becoming entangled in it. In Tighnari's opinion, however profound and esoteric knowledge may be, it does not equal virtue. Elitism and deceit can lead to no good. Ironically, the academia sages who manage knowledge neither comprehend the true meaning of knowledge, nor understand the yearnings of the human heart. Though Tighnari has rejected them several times, still their pleas come time after time to his door. Let's see just where exactly the path of stubbornness and ignorance will lead them in the future.
So Tighnari does seem like a cool character to have in your party. I do like his little psychedelic illusion tripping bomb thing that he throws, and enemies kind of get taunted and lost within it, and you can just keep pelting them with arrows. Seems like to have a fun play style. I can see he really feels like a combination of other characters kind of shoved into one, where he's got a taunt thing similar to Ganyu or something, and then his other attack where it charges up, hits the enemy, and then more missiles come out, feels a little like Yoimiya, maybe, if I'm thinking of the right character. You know, stuff like that. And it's pretty cool how you have all these different kinds of mechanics possible, and how you can even take a little bit from previous characters and put them in a new character and tweak them just a little bit to make the character feel very unique and useful in their own ways when playing this game. So that, you know, good. I'm glad that he has a playstyle that looks as fun as it does. And then we have Dainsleif kind of giving some hints about the current story, or not current, but current at the time when this was released, referring to the sages in the academia. Well, he's like, yeah, they're ignorant and stupid and stubborn, and Tighnari wants nothing to do with them. His in-game model is not as jarring as his art is, for whatever reason. I don't know how to explain it. Like, I look at this splash image of him, and I am bothered by the design. But in-game, he actually doesn't look that bad, and I don't know what that is and what's making me feel that way. There's something going on, and I know color theory and all that stuff, and I've talked about it before in my version trailers or the reaction to the teasers, something like that. I can't remember which video it was. But yeah, seeing his model move about in-game isn't as distracting as I thought it could be. So I could see if you have this character and you enjoy using the character, if you did ever have problems with his design, you would adapt. And you wouldn't really notice it after a while, because I'm sure he's designed in such a way that it fits his personality. Okay, now we have Collei, and I'm aware that there is a comic about Genshin that talks more about Collei and reveals information about her condition. I already know some things. I haven't seen the comic as of yet, but I do plan on doing a video about it in the future, hopefully. So yeah, I'm curious as to what Dainsleif is going to say about Collei, if anything. I imagine he will at least acknowledge her past a bit, or if there's any struggles that she's currently going through with the condition that she has. So with that said, let's continue.
Some time ago, the Forest Rangers of Gandharvaville welcomed a new trainee to their ranks. She's a warm-hearted girl with a radiant smile, always ready to help a forest trekker in need. Like the hardiest plants in the forest, her will to live runs deep, seemingly unbreakable despite the traumas of the past.
Trainee Forest Ranger Collei, reporting.
Mondstadt gave Collei an opportunity to turn things around, and now Sumeru provides her with a place to grow. Here, she will support those around her with her newly acquired power of Dendro. Good things come to those who are willing to work toward their dreams. When Collei is in the party, she reduces gliding stamina consumption for your own party members, making exploration faster. Collei's normal attack can combo up to 4 consecutive shots, dealing physical damage. With a charged attack, Collei executes a more precise aimed shot that deals increased damage. While aiming, Dendro energy accumulates on the arrowhead. A fully charged arrow will deal Dendro damage. Collei's elemental skill throws a floral ring that deals 1 bout of Dendro damage to each target it hits. The floral ring will return after a set time, dealing further Dendro damage on the way back. After unlocking the talent Floral Sidewinder, if one of your own party members triggers a Burning, Quicken, Aggravate, Spread, Bloom, Hyperbloom, or Burgeon reaction before the floral ring returns, the floral ring will grant the character the Sprout effect on its return. The Sprout effect deals Dendro damage to nearby enemies for a set time based on Collei's attack. If the Sprout effect is triggered again before it expires, the initial effect will be removed.
Help!
Collei's elemental burst brings her trusty assistant, Cullen Anba, into the battle, causing an explosion that deals AoE Dendro damage and creates a Cullen Anba zone. Cullen Anba bounds around within the zone, dealing further AoE Dendro damage. Plant life thrives in the Sumeru forests, like the hope rejuvenated in Collei's life. After unlocking the talent The Languid Wood, when a character in the Cullen Anba zone triggers a Burning, Quicken, Aggravate, Spread, Bloom, Hyperbloom, or Burgeon reaction, the zone's duration will be extended. A given Cullen Anba zone's duration may only be extended in this way by up to a limited amount. The time that Collei once spent on the run taught her a wealth of survival and combat skills. Though still a trainee forest ranger, her Dendro vision gives her the ability to hold her own in many challenging situations. In battle, Collei focuses on casting her elemental skill, aiming to hit as many enemies as possible and generate the Sprout effect within the floral ring. This enables her teammates to deal greater damage through more elemental reactions. When her energy is full, Collei summons Cullen Anba, whose Cullen Anba zone deals continuous Dendro damage to the enemy, and creates a fertile ground for elemental reactions. By coordinating with her teammates, the zone can be extended and exploited long enough to root out every last one. Growth means different things to different people. Some simply wish to grow up in peace, while others pursue loftier goals. As for Collei, she believes that overcoming her past is a necessary step on the long journey to the future she pursues. This is wise, for to overcome is to move forward, not to wallow endlessly in the past. Pity that my former travel companion, for all their years of rumination, lacks Collei's clarity on this. Or perhaps some situations are simply too complex to be resolved by good intentions and honest effort alone.
What the hell was that? Not Collei. Collei was fine. She seems like an interesting character. So when he was talking about, you know, it's good to move forward and not wallow endlessly in the past, I was in my head poking at Dainsleif, thinking like, dude, all you talk about is the past. That's not true. He talks about the future a lot as well. So he is constantly moving forward, it seems, but guy is hooked up on the past big time. He's so hooked up on the past, it's the reason why he's moving the way he is into the future. So, I mean, and obviously that's just kind of like how things work, but the way he phrased it here, I was thinking to myself, you're one of the last people I want to hear that from, dude, because you keep talking about the gods did this and brr, 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 and like, you know, he keeps bringing up old stuff. Then it shifted. He said other things, and that made me go, what the heck? Pity that my former travel companion, for all their years of rumination, lacks Collei's clarity on this, or perhaps some situations are simply too complex to be resolved by good intentions and honest effort alone. What the hell is he talking about rumination for? For all their years of rumination, he's doing the same thing. Just from watching all this stuff, and I've talked about this before during this video, Dainsleif projects like crazy amount of projection here. He's doing it right here. Rumination? What? Pity that my formal travel companion. So, I don't think it's ever been revealed what or who Dainsleif actually is in the game. I know he's Dainsleif, but like what the heck is his deal, right? I had a theory that I didn't really talk about, and I think that Dainsleif, as of right now, I think Dainsleif is some kind of version of the Traveler. I guess in this case, specifically Ether. I don't know how to make that make any sense as of right now, but there's just some things that he says, and it's making me feel like there is some connection there. I feel like there's going to be some time shenanigans. There's already been, you know, crossing dimensions shenanigans in this game with how Ether and Lumine are not originally from the Genshin world. Even the collaborative characters like Aloy, they made one of these for that character, fully acknowledging that it's a character from another realm coming into this one. So there is cross-dimensional stuff happening canon-wise. If Aloy's not included, then it's at least with the main protagonists. There could be something tricky, and I don't think any of that stuff is really going to be revealed. If it hasn't already, I don't think it's going to be revealed until Celestia, whatever the last stage is for this game. But I think Dainsleif is possibly a part of you in some way. But then who would the former travel companion be? It would be Paimon, or it would be the sibling, Lumine, if he's referring to before Paimon. If Dainsleif is Ether. I just looked into Dainsleif's name for the first time. Translates to Dead Legacy within Norse mythology. Oh man, there's quite a few ways how you can kind of tie that into all sorts of things. if there's weird time stuff or alternate dimension stuff or different timelines, and let's say Dainsleif is Ether. Let's say that Dainsleif is the Traveler. Dainsleif went through all these trials already. He has gone through all of these regions to get to Celestia, to get to his sister, to get to Lumine, right? He did what he had to do, and then he had the chance to reshape the world. He did it, and he screwed up and caused the cataclysm and all that stuff, and I don't know, somehow this shit repeats itself because everything got all screwed up. And now Dainsleif is here telling you not to mess with this stuff. Don't go through the gods and do all this stuff. Just there's another way, and he's trying to fix things in a different direction now, while your shit's still happening at the same time, and he's coming up trying to persuade you to do. It's like a weird paradox thing, right? That's where this theory is going, because Dainsleif is the narrator for all these characters. He is speaking in that Teyvat prelude video that I watched, where everyone rewatches every time a new region is released, because he drops information about everything, even the stuff that hasn't come out yet, and he talks about the final stand, like how it all leads up to one thing. And I don't know, like I feel like this is all one big lesson to be learned from a guy who's already done it and screwed up so bad, and that guy was you in another time, or whatever that is. That's my theory as of right now, without playing the game and knowing anything about the dude. I don't know, maybe that sounds ridiculous and you guys do know more than me about this character at this point in time. I get the sense that Dainsleif is a very mysterious character in the game still, and that's okay, because I'm gonna figure it out, I guess, one of these days. We all will. But yeah, those are my thoughts. And I'm just gonna say it right now, I don't know if I trust Paimon at all. I know some people are cool with Paimon, some people are annoyed by them. I'm more skeptical about Paimon. I think Paimon's connected to all sorts of crazy stuff that's going to happen later in the game. Has to be. Because what the heck is she? Okay, anyway, moving on to the next character.
I first met Dori long before she was the infinitely resourceful merchant that you know today, but I could already see that her adorable face was simply brimming with confident determination. Such focus, such passion. Now what kind of grand sorceress would I be if I didn't offer her just a little assistance? I dare say my instincts were right on the Mora. That little investment turned out to be one of the best I've ever made.
Come on, let's go! There's a fortune to be made!
Merchant like Dori wouldn't dream of turning away a perfectly good business deal just because the customer demands the impossible. No. So long as the price is right on your tall order, Lord Sangama Bey will personally make sure that all your worries are zapped away with the aid of her Electrovision. Any deals that pass through Dori's hands seem to magically yield extra returns. When Dori crafts character and weapon enhancement materials, she has a chance to recover some of the materials used, which can be set aside for emergencies. Dori's normal attack causes her genie to combo up to 3 strikes that deal physical damage to enemies. Hold the attack button and the genie drains stamina over time to perform a continuous spinning attack on nearby enemies, dealing physical damage. When the spinning stops, the genie unleashes one final extra strong strike that launches smaller enemies within range. Dori's elemental skill fires troubleshooter shots from her spirit warding lamp, dealing electro damage to enemies. To sweeten the deal, when troubleshooter shots hit their target, 2 after-sales service rounds are produced that automatically track down their nearby enemies and deal extra electro damage just for good measure. After unlocking the talent Compound Interest, when the troubleshooter shots or after-sales service rounds from Dori's elemental skill hit enemies, Dori will restore elemental energy to herself based on her energy recharge rate. Each elemental skill valid for one energy recharge only. Energy can be redeemed only up to a certain limit. Terms and conditions apply. When Dori unleashes her elemental burst, she summons the genie from her lamp to provide her customers with a plethora of services. The genie connects to a nearby character, causing them to become affected by electro. The connected character will continuously restore HP based on Dori's max HP and will also steadily regenerate energy. When the connector between the genie and the character touches enemies, it will deal bouts of electro damage to them at set intervals. Only one genie can exist at one time. An astute merchant like Dori spots business opportunities everywhere she looks. She must always be ready to provide customers with the perfect solution at a moment's notice. After unlocking the talent, An Eye for Gold, when a character connected to the genie triggers an electrocharged superconduct, overloaded, quicken, aggravate, hyperbloom, or an electro swirl or crystallize reaction, the cooldown of Troubleshooter Cannon is decreased. This effect can only be triggered once within a set period of time. Any merchant worth their mora must have keen foresight, and Dori figures out just what her customers need before they've even realized themselves. That's why adventurers heading toward danger always seem to find a certain petite peddler waiting for them just where the going starts to get tough. After entering battle, Dori fires her troubleshooter shots to deal electro damage to enemies, with the after-sales service rounds following up after the initial delivery. When her energy is full, Dori summons forth the genie within the lamp to provide support to her teammates. The genie can connect to a nearby character, causing them to regenerate energy and restore HP. By moving the character's position, the connection with the genie can be adjusted, dealing electro damage to enemies while offering customers a little extra bang for their buck. I've traveled all over the world, met countless people, and helped plenty of them along the way, but Dori is one of the very few who still keeps in touch. I'm not interested in her paying me back, but I do admire her bold and daring mercantile methods. Doing business is just like adventuring and inventing. You must go big or go home. You mustn't be skittish and easily deterred. So for my purposes, Dori is a superb partner, and I am only too delighted to place the most ingenious of my personal inventions into her capable hands. An old astrologist friend of mine always harps on about the consequences of handing off these kinds of items, but nothing has come of it yet, so we'll continue business as normal.
Okay, wasn't expecting Alice to be talking about Dori at all. I'll get into that in a second. Real quick is that I'm not that interested in her character or abilities. I don't really know what it is. I will say this though, her animations are pretty unique looking, with her sitting on top of the little genie thing and it's swinging her mace around and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. I like that, but I didn't personally see anything that really wowed me like a lot of these other characters have. She is another electro user that has her scaling off of HP though, which is interesting. But other than that, yeah, I don't really know. Let me know in the comments if you are a Dori main. I haven't really seen many people talk about her as of yet, but yeah, if you think that she's worth it, let me know. As far as Alice goes, not a huge fan of what she's saying in this. Let me explain. Alice is an inventor and an adventurer. She's a witch or sorceress, whatever we want to call her. So she's constantly making stuff, testing things out. It's all about that ambition and determination with her. I guess she saw something in Dori and has given her inventions or gifts, or probably even the lamp itself. All because Dori is a ruthless merchant. Maybe ruthless is too hard to say. She's a very determined merchant. And I have no problem with Alice, like, yeah, you know, just want to help this person out and want to you know, make things and have them test it and whatever. Dori's almost being used as a test subject herself. And what made me go, uh-oh, at the end about Alice was how she doesn't seem to care. If something does go wrong, she doesn't care. The fact that so many things can go wrong and she's like, well, it hasn't happened yet, so whatever. Like, I don't personally like that kind of attitude. And maybe that's just me, because I'm the kind of person that likes to have backup plans. I try to be prepared for when things fail. Here, she does have that mentality of, if it's not broken, don't fix it, which is fine, but she also doesn't seem to care if it were to break, with how she stated that comment. I'm also a little weirded out that Alice had spoke for Dori and Aloy, but not her own daughter. I was expecting to hear Alice way back when we did Collei, and we didn't. Alice here talking about how, oh, Dori stays in contact so frequently and blah, blah, blah. I give her all these little toys and blah, blah, blah. And, like, I don't care. What about your kid? Where are you, lady? I know she's important and she's all powerful and all this stuff, and she gives Collei these grand adventure, like, vacation places that she can go and have fun in the summertime and all that stuff. But I don't know. I guess it just kills me that there hasn't been an interaction that I've been able to see between Collei and her own mother as of yet. However, we have evidence here that she talks to Dori, like, frequently. Alice seems very interesting and cool and obviously very powerful, all that jazz. A great character to look into. At the same time, kind of sounds like a shit mom and does not seem to care about people's well-being in general. But hey, maybe that'll change. Maybe we'll hear Alice again and there'll be some other things that pop up that will make me, you know, rethink what I said. So we'll see.
Many in Sumeru make it their life's goal to be a scholar, some for the pursuit of truth and knowledge, but there are also those who have other intentions. After all, if you find a niche research topic and manage to secure academia funding, you're set for life. But if this sounds too good to be true, that's because it usually is. The academia is a millennia-old institution, and those working to ensure its continued longevity have zero tolerance for those trying to exploit it.
Who's our next target?
The favor of the gods enables Cyno to manipulate the electro element and to summon a divine spirit to aid him in the cause of delivering justice. The General Mahamatra gained his formidable reputation not through empty posturing, but by tracking down wayward scholars and bringing them to justice. And because of his tracking prowess, these trips often end up more bountiful than expected. Cyno gains increased rewards when dispatched on a 20-hour expedition within Sumeru. Cyno's normal attack can combo up to 4 strikes with his polearm, dealing physical damage. Using his charged attack, Cyno consumes a certain amount of stamina to lunge forward, dealing physical damage to enemies along the way. Cast Cyno's elemental skill to perform a high-speed dash, dealing electro damage to enemies in his path.
Through me, justice is served!
Cyno's elemental burst summons a divine spirit to possess him. He morphs into the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer, causing damage dealt by his normal, charged, and plunging attacks to be converted to electro damage that cannot be overridden. In this state, Cyno's elemental mastery and resistance to interruption are increased, and he gains immunity to damage dealt by electro-charged reactions. The Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state ends after a set duration, or when Cyno leaves the field. When Cyno is in the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state, his elemental skill changes, instead unleashing a Mortuary Rite, which deals thunderous AoE electro damage and extends the duration of Pact-Sworn Pathclearer. Once the General Mahamatra has you in his sights, the best option is to admit your guilt. Otherwise, you will find yourself the target of his relentless pursuit. After unlocking the talent Featherfall Judgment, when Cyno is in the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state, he will intermittently enter the Endseer state. If he casts his elemental skill while in this state, he will activate the Judication effect, increasing the damage of this elemental skill and firing off 3 Duststalker bolts that deal electro damage. After unlocking the talent Authority over the 9 Bows, damage dealt by Cyno's normal attack and Duststalker bolts while in the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state is increased based on Cyno's elemental mastery. Break the Academia Code at your peril, for as are Cyno's jokes, so too is his judgment, no laughing matter. Cyno starts battle by casting his elemental skill, dealing electro damage to enemies and building up elemental energy. When his energy is full, he unleashes his Elemental Burst to enter the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state, then deals electro damage to enemies with normal attacks, and his special elemental skill, Mortuary Rite. By strategically using Mortuary Rite, he not only extends the Pact-Sworn Pathclearer state, but also triggers the Judication effect to fire off Duststalker bolts and deliver final judgment upon the guilty. In my travels across Teyvat, I've heard people say that curiosity was mankind's original sin. Perhaps everyone has the impulse to explore the deep secrets of the world, but only scholars can truly fulfill such ambitions. Cyno can relate to some degree. Placing the mysteries of the universe before scholars with a burning desire for knowledge would be like placing a dragon-themed deck from Genius Invocation TCG in front of him. Both are irresistible temptations. Perhaps the Academia established the Matra not principally to punish wayward scholars, but rather to protect them, because the gravest crimes committed in the name of wisdom may be beyond the Matra's ability to punish.
I think Cyno is a very cool character, and I never really considered him a brawler because of his polearm, but he does have that stage where he does essentially a bunch of claw attacks. And I guess that might be even similar to how Dia is as well, because I know we've seen her both with a sword and her punching and such. So, yeah. And was it just me, or was Dainsleif here continuously throwing shade at Cyno throughout this entire thing? Almost backhanded compliments? There were 2 different occasions where he essentially called him a nerd. It's like, yes, his powers and his jokes are no laughing matter. Just said the guy's jokes suck. Maybe they do. I don't know. At the same time, he called him kind of powerful, so there's that as well. And then bringing up the TCG thing as well. I mean, it's funny. It's cool. Like, they make this guy out to look very serious. He's kind of just a nerdy boy on the inside. Or not even the inside. Maybe it's very obvious. I don't know. But yeah, that's a thing. And then at the end there, when he's saying that some of the greatest crimes against or of wisdom may be beyond his ability to punish, which is interesting. That's Dainsleif doing his what if again, or, you know, like, I know more than you do thing with his perspective. But yeah, another cool video.
In the eyes of many adventurers, merchants, and even mercenaries, Aru Village is the only safe haven in an otherwise treacherous desert. Though far from prosperous, it provides ample food and water to all who come here in need, as well as a bed for the night. On one condition: do not disturb the peace.
Stay close.
As the sworn protector of Aru Village, Candace is highly adept with her shield and spear. With the aid of her hydrovision, she can fend off the strongest of storms and the fiercest of foes. Life is harsh in the hot and arid desert. Strength and endurance are the key to survival for those who dwell here. When Candace is in the party, the active character benefits from reduced stamina consumption from climbing. Candace's normal attack can combo up to 4 strikes with her polearm, dealing physical damage. Using her charged attack, Candace consumes a certain amount of stamina to lunge forward, dealing physical damage to enemies along the way. Tap Candace's elemental skill to perform a swift shield strike, dealing hydro damage to enemies in front. Hold her elemental skill, and she raises the shield to block attacks from nearby enemies. The shield absorbs damage based on her max HP and offers extra protection against hydro damage. The shield can remain until Candace finishes casting her elemental skill. After holding the skill for a fixed duration, Candace will finish charging her attack. Then, when the skill is released, its duration expires or the shield is broken, she performs a forward leaping strike that deals hydro damage. After unlocking the talent Aegis of Crossed Arrows, if Candace is hit while holding her elemental skill, she instantly finishes charging.
We shall prevail!
When Candace unleashes her elemental burst, she holds her weapon high to summon Divine Assistance, which deals AoE hydro damage based on her max HP, and continuously grants the Prayer of the Crimson Crown state to the active character. In this state, when a character's normal attack deals elemental damage to an enemy, the damage dealt is increased. Switching characters unleashes a Rippling Wave attack, dealing hydro damage to nearby enemies. This can only be triggered a limited number of times during Prayer of the Crimson Crown's duration. Additionally, characters wielding a sword, claymore, or polearm gain a hydro infusion while Prayer of the Crimson Crown is in effect. After unlocking the talent Celestial Dome of Sand, when a character under the effect of Prayer of the Crimson Crown deals elemental damage with a normal attack, damage dealt is increased based on Candace's max HP. Candace is a kind soul who is only too happy to stow her weapon when not needed, but anyone who mistakes her good nature for weakness and fails to respect the customs of Auru village should prepare to face the consequences. When battle commences, Candace comes to the defense of the party, using her elemental skill to block the enemy's attack and perform a counterattack. When energy is full, she casts her elemental burst to deal AoE hydro damage and boost her teammates' normal attacks with the Prayer of the Crimson Crown status, then joins them in removing the unruly visitors from Auru village for good. There are many rumors about the village guardian with the one golden eye. They say that the sands are her spies, the storm winds are her servants, the blood of King Deshret flows in her veins, and that even the strongest of foes must yield at her command. People who have lost their guardian deity often display the greatest interest in the gods, but having never seen a god with their own eyes, the far-fetched products of their naive imaginations are poor substitutes for reality. Yet despite being the subject of these fanciful rumors, Candace herself takes a much more sober view of things. A shield is but a tool, a polearm but a weapon, and what matters most is not the divine power a weapon contains, but the determination of the one who wields it.
So what I really like about Candace, which I've talked about before, is that she has a shield. As far as I know, I think she's the only character to have a shield. And I think it's cool that they incorporated that into her moveset. I was kind of 50-50 feeling whether or not they would or not. Like, it could have just been like a cosmetic thing there just to look cool and that she would technically use it story-wise, but it's nice that it is actually part of her whole thing. Not saying that there are characters who are duplicates necessarily in Genshin, but Candace feels pretty far removed for the most part because of the shield being added. I will say that most of the polearm users have their charged normal attack as that spear dash, and I was kind of hoping maybe they would start mixing that up a little bit. Regardless, still cool. And I do like what Dainsleif says at the end here. Candace is so powerful that the average person may consider her to be a living god amongst them. However, she's just all about that hard work and determination. And yeah, I like it. That's great and also not so great. I mean, come on, he knows the entirety of the story before it's even finished. Dainsleif trying to back up his own statement with like a drop the mic thing. Like, gotcha, you can't prove me wrong, bitch, I'm gonna do it right now, watch me.